I never imagined that my life could take such an unexpected and tormented turn. My name is Julia. I am 48 years old, and I have been married to Luca for over 20 years. Our life has always been calm, perhaps too predictable. A welcoming home, a stable job, and a daughter, Monica, raised with love and dedication. I didn't miss anything, or so I thought, but sometimes even the smallest change can unleash a storm. It all started when Monica started dating Marco, a charming and charismatic young man who over time became part of our family. At first, he was just my daughter's boyfriend. Then he became her husband. Marco had that natural charm, a magnetic presence that made me uncomfortable and at the same time attracted me in a way I couldn't explain. I told myself that it was just a passing sensation, a thought to be chased away. But his presence was always there, insistent, like a whisper I couldn't ignore. One afternoon, while Luca was away on business and Monica went out with her friends, I found myself alone in the house with Marco. It was rare for that to happen, and the atmosphere between the two of us seemed inexplicably tense, as if there was something in the air that neither of us dared mention. I was in the kitchen, busy making coffee when he approached. Too close. I felt his breath touch my skin, and an electric shock ran through my body. His eyes, deep and scrutinizing, seemed to want to read inside me, discover the thoughts that I was desperately trying to repress. Then it happened. It was a simple, almost involuntary gesture. Our hands touched. The banal, apparently insignificant contact triggered a whirlwind of emotions that overwhelmed me. There was no need for words. At that moment, an invisible boundary was crossed. In the following days, I tried to forget, to convince myself that it had just been an accident, a mistake. But every time I closed my eyes, I relived that moment. I tormented myself with the thought of how wrong it was. Betraying Luca, and especially Monica, was unthinkable. But the more I tried to distance myself from that idea, the more I felt attracted to Marco. Our every meeting was full of tension. Every look and every smile seemed to hold a secret that we both knew, but that no one dared to say. It was late one evening when everything changed again. Monica was out for work, and Luca had fallen asleep in front of the television. I had retreated to the living room, trying to distract myself with a book, when Marco entered the room. He sat next to me, too close, and I felt my heart speed up. I tried to stay calm, but he looked at me with a look that seemed to penetrate my soul. And then, without warning, he kissed me. It wasn't a sweet kiss, but full of passion and repressed desire. I was shocked, but I couldn't push him away. At that moment, all the defenses I had built collapsed. Since then, the connection between Marco and me became increasingly stronger. Every encounter, every touch seemed to set the air around us on fire. I was torn between the desire to remain faithful to Luca and the irresistible attraction I felt for his son-in-law. Marco, for his part, did nothing to put out that flame. Every time we were alone, his eyes seemed to ask me to let go, to abandon all guilt. Julia betrayed everything and everyone. Do you think she deserves understanding or condemnation? Write it in the comments. Your opinion counts. One evening after a family dinner, I found myself alone with him again. Luca had gone to bed early, tired from work, and Monica was still out. Marco approached, and his gaze made me tremble. I knew I was walking a thin line, suspended between guilt and uncontrollable desire. But in that moment, the only thing I could feel was the pounding of my heart and the warmth of his presence. The silence in the house seemed to amplify our every movement. Marco approached again, but this time there was no hesitation on my part. I wanted it too much, and so we kissed again, but with an even greater intensity. Our bodies sought each other, as if they had been created for each other. From that moment on, Marco and I began a secret relationship. We took advantage of every opportunity we could be alone, experiencing an adrenaline rush, an escape from reality. I knew we were playing with fire, but the desire to be with him outweighed any guilt. Every kiss, every touch seemed to bond me more and more to him. I couldn't stop, even though I knew I was risking destroying my family. Marco was different from Luca, younger, more passionate. It made me feel alive in a way I had never felt before. Whenever we were together, I lost myself completely in him, forgetting about the rest of the world. But deep down I knew this couldn't last forever. Despite all my efforts to hide our relationship, Luca began to notice changes. I wasn't the same around him anymore, and I tried to avoid him more than usual. Every time Marco came to visit us, Luca observed me carefully, almost as if he suspected something. I felt more and more trapped, but I couldn't stop what I had with Marco. I was trapped in a vortex of lies and betrayals, and with each passing day the situation became more and more difficult to manage. One evening, while we were in bed, Luca asked me if there was something wrong. He looked at me with those eyes full of concern, and for a moment I felt tempted to confess everything. But I couldn't. I couldn't destroy our family. Above all, I couldn't hurt Monica like that. So I lied, saying I was just stressed and tired. Luca seemed to believe me, but I knew his suspicions wouldn't stop there. One afternoon, when we knew that Luca and Monica were out, Marco and I decided to meet at my house. We knew it was risky, but the desire to be together was too strong. As we stood in my bedroom, I lost my bearings in the pleasure and emotion of the moment. But suddenly, I heard a noise coming from downstairs. Luca had returned earlier than expected. My heart started pounding. We dressed quickly, trying not to make any noise. Marco managed to escape through the back window, just as Luca entered the house. I was terrified, and guilt overwhelmed me. If Luca had discovered us, it would have been the end of everything. From that day on, I knew I had to be more cautious. We were risking too much. The tension between Luca and me continued to grow. Every time Marco came to the house, I tried to act normal, but inside me I felt like something was about to explode. One day, Luca confronted me directly. He asked me if there was something between me and Marco. I couldn't hide anymore. My body trembled, and for the first time in my life I felt completely vulnerable. I knew I couldn't lie much longer, but confessing meant destroying everything we'd built. I looked Luca in the eyes and realized that the truth would devastate not only him, but Monica too. I didn't know what to do. My life was on the verge of falling apart, and I wondered if I had the courage to face the consequences of my actions. If you want to receive new videos of the series, write, "I want the sequel," in the comments. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to receive a preview of future publications. Thank you.